Discover a nation where toilet paper is practically unknown, and hands take the spotlight. We are talking about a vast country located in South Asia, spanning over 3 million square kilometers. This place, home to approximately 1.5 billion inhabitants, represents a significant fraction of the world's population, which currently stands at about 8 billion. We are talking about India, a country of intense contrasts and astonishing diversity, where life varies dramatically from one extreme to another. In every corner of this enormous nation, you will find unique stories and ways of life that reflect both abundance and poverty. Indian society is deeply influenced by an ancient and complex caste system, which has shaped social structure and interactions for millennia. This system classifies people into different hierarchical levels from birth, assigning roles and status that persist in many aspects of daily life. Despite modern challenges and efforts for equity, the traces of this caste system are still perceived in contemporary Indian society. In India's complex social structure, even if you possess exceptional talent or outstanding scientific skills, your life could be predefined if you belong to the lower class, known as Shudra. This category is traditionally destined for servitude roles. In contrast, those who appear impeccable and well-groomed on the streets likely belong to the upper classes, such as bureaucrats, military personnel, or priests. Individuals in the lower strata of Indian society often face limitations inherited from ancient traditions. Historically, families in India tended to have many children as a means of security for old age, compensating for the absence of a robust pension system. This pattern of having large families has continued through generations. During their 300-year rule, even the British recognized this social problem but failed to eradicate it. Current experts anticipate that India's population could surpass China's in the next 5 decades. The lack of access to adequate education is considered a key factor in this uncontrolled population growth. Despite education in India being mandatory until the age of 14, there is an alarming number of illiterates, with more than 500 million people unable to read or write. Of those who continue their education, only 10% manage to obtain a university degree. From this small group, however, arises a notable number of scientists who have found their place in international organizations, such as NASA. For a tourist, experiencing India can seem like navigating through chaos. The streets, often dark and dirty, buzz with frenetic activity. Despite its rich diversity and potential, India faces significant challenges due to its enormous population and limited economic opportunities. High rates of poverty, crime, and unemployment, along with a mosaic of religious beliefs, contribute to a general feeling of dissatisfaction among citizens. Visitors to the country frequently mention the lack of cleanliness in urban areas as a critical issue. The penetrating smells, particularly in narrow streets, are a constant nuisance. This situation is exacerbated by poor infrastructure, evident in the lack of adequate sanitary services. Many homes lack bathrooms, forcing residents to resort to open public facilities that lack privacy and proper hygienic conditions. In India, a significant proportion of the population, nearly half, resorts to using public bathrooms on the streets. Faced with the challenge of governing such a vast population, Indian authorities enforce laws rigorously. The combination of high population density, poverty, and limited access to education has led to a notable increase in crime rates, with over 50,000 homicides reported annually in the country. Regarding the most populous cities, New Delhi, the capital, is home to about 32 million people, while Mumbai, located on the west coast, has approximately 22 million inhabitants. The most densely populated state is Uttar Pradesh, which, with its 240 million residents and an area of 243,000 square kilometers, is one of the regions with the highest population concentration in the country. It is a striking reality. Approximately 60% of India's population lives in slums, while the rest, who work in large corporations, can afford to live in more favorable conditions thanks to salaries that allow them to cover high rental costs. Consider this. Rents in the cities can reach $300 per month, a prohibitive sum for the majority of the population, earning around $100 monthly. How is it possible, then, that some can afford rents of $300 to $400? To understand this, we start in Mumbai and New Delhi, exploring life in these metropolises of India. a South Asian country whose complexities are so vast that they cannot be captured in a single narrative. Mumbai is notable for housing some of the largest slums in Asia. To visit, you need to obtain an Indian visa. Acquiring this visa is a relatively simple process. Depending on the purpose of the trip, whether for tourism, business, or studies, different types of visas are available. The electronic visa, or e-visa, is especially convenient for tourists and short-term visitors, as it can be applied for online before the trip. The official currency of India is the Indian rupee, with an exchange rate of approximately 82 rupees for every US dollar. Upon arriving at New Delhi Airport, it is advisable to exchange some dollars for rupees to facilitate your initial movements, such as taking a taxi or a tuk-tuk to your accommodation. It is essential to remember that when you visit a country where the dollar is not the local currency, it is convenient to exchange your money for the country's currency. This is because paying in dollars often results in a loss in the change received. To exchange money, it is recommended to use exchange houses or ATMs located at the airport. As you explore the streets of cities like Mumbai and New Delhi, you encounter a great diversity of people. Observing their faces and environments can reveal challenges in their lives, reflected in their expressions and the conditions of their homes. Many children do not attend school, and numerous homes lack electricity. In the slums, much of the population subsists by collecting waste and working with recyclable materials. This essential, though often invisible labor, contributes more than $1 billion to the annual income of the Indian economy. Despite the large number of workers, most do not earn $100 monthly. However, there is an admirable aspect to this situation. Similar to what happens in Bangladesh, people in India do not complain about their low wages. They accept any available job as the only way to subsist. Consider, for example, a plastic recycling center on a street in Mumbai, where discarded plastic is transformed into new products. The workers labor tirelessly, performing repetitive movements as if they were machines designed to facilitate the life of the upper class within the caste system structure. It is rare to find brick houses or well-painted ones in these areas. Inside a typical home in these slums, you would find corrugated metal roofs and rooms where 3 or 4 men share a small, poorly ventilated space, washing with cold water. Despite these difficult conditions, it is common to see many children playing in the streets of these dense neighborhoods. Facing the challenge of providing a prosperous future for children in these conditions is extremely difficult, and their population continues to grow. In these slums, it is common for families to raise pigeons to sell them later. Infrastructures such as roads and bridges are overflowing with waste, and the intense heat favors the proliferation of bacteria. In Mumbai, certain places function practically as open-air dumps, accumulating all kinds of waste, including human feces. This is because some people use these open spaces under the bridges to relieve themselves. The slums and some factories lack adequate sewage systems, resulting in the city's canals being filled with waste from these densely populated areas. If you plan to visit the world's largest concentration of slums and shanty towns, it is wise to carry several masks, antibiotics, and a good supply of sanitizer in your backpack. From a high point, the view of the slums is heartbreaking. Cramped buildings, intertwined electrical wires, and layers of dust covering everything. This image is sadly emblematic of the challenges India faces, a country that must address the needs of 1.5 billion people spread over a vast geographical area. Similar to Bangladesh, one of the most striking aspects is the curiosity of the people. They watch you intensely, as if they rarely see a foreigner, regardless of whether they are busy or not. The street food vendors in Mumbai offer a feast for the senses. Tasting their dishes, prepared with their own hands, can be a unique culinary adventure. However, the experience can also be a surprise for your digestive system, not only due to hygiene issues but also because the South Asian taste for spices, sauces, and very spicy food is exceptionally intense, which can be quite strong for those not used to it. In Pakistan and Bangladesh, it is common for food to be prepared using generous amounts of oil in large pans. Locals often satisfy their hunger on the streets, where street vendors offer a wide variety of dishes. Tasting these foods can be a unique experience, challenging the palate with their intensity in spices, sauces, and spiciness, but also surprising the stomach from a hygiene perspective. This preference for cooking with a lot of oil is observed in both Bangladesh and Pakistan, where street food is a common sight. Although the variety of street food is broad, it often seems that vendors do not consider crucial aspects such as the cleanliness of the environment and their own personal hygiene. For example, it is common to see them using their hands without gloves to shred cooked chicken and serve it directly at the counter. This practice can make Western visitors think twice before trying these dishes. The oil used by street vendors often seems of dubious quality. When preparing the food, it is common to see vendors not wearing uniforms and having residues of ingredients scattered around their stalls. In the north of the country, many people avoid consuming meat for religious reasons and opt for vegetarian diets. Therefore, if you find yourself in New Delhi and want to maintain your protein intake, it might be wise to bring your own protein bars. The beverages offered on the streets are usually very sugary, and the state of the glasses might be unappealing. However, many vendors skillfully prepare refreshing drinks that are so popular, people line up to buy them. The lack of safe pedestrian pathways and the constant noise of honking horns are part of the traffic chaos. Additionally, it is notable that the society is predominantly male-dominated. You will observe that more than 80% of the people on the streets are men. This causes some men to stare at women, especially those with Western features, which can be uncomfortable. Traffic accidents are a constant concern in India and other parts of South Asia, exacerbated by the population density. Conflicts frequently arise when these accidents occur, with arguments that sometimes escalate in the streets. Traffic often comes to a complete standstill, and disputes begin to heat up, making it difficult for the police to intervene in time. Therefore, if you plan to move or live in India, whether in Mumbai or New Delhi, it is crucial to develop patience and adapt to the social environment and local dynamics. The chaos and environmental pollution are especially noticeable in densely populated areas. India's streets and roads are constantly covered in dust due to vehicle traffic, which can irritate the eyes and nose. Therefore, if you plan to visit, even for a short time, it is advisable to bring antibiotics, eye drops, and antimicrobial nasal spray with you. In many cultures, including India, it is customary to use the left hand and water for personal hygiene after using the bathroom, a practice that may seem unusual to those accustomed to using toilet paper. Toilet paper is not widely used in many areas of India, and its usage can vary depending on the region. When traveling across the country, you might encounter scenes that are unfamiliar or surprising, both in terms of social life and religious practices. For example, it is common to see women shaving their heads as a sign of devotion before immersing themselves in a sacred river. In India, the Ganges River is considered sacred despite being one of the most polluted rivers in the world. Each city along its banks has unique traditions associated with it. It is common for Hindus to scatter the ashes of loved ones in the Ganges. Cremation on its banks is a deeply rooted custom within the Hindu faith, symbolizing the river's importance as an essential site for transitional rituals, including the final passage of the soul. This custom originates from the teachings of Hinduism, which emphasize the liberation of the soul from the continuous cycle of death and rebirth, known as samsara, and its passage towards moksha, the ultimate spiritual liberation. So, when visiting this river, it is usual to find it containing many ashes of the deceased. In any city in India, it is common to see cows roaming freely through the streets, sometimes even obstructing traffic. Killing a cow, even accidentally, can lead to severe legal consequences and social ostracism. Considered sacred in Hinduism, the predominant religion in India, cows coexist in urban spaces without being disturbed. Out of respect, Hindus abstain from consuming beef. If someone intentionally kills a cow and is caught, they could face long years in prison. However, the image of India is not limited to slums, chaos, and religious practices that may seem unusual. The daily life observed is just one part of the reality of its inhabitants. The nation also has a wealthy class that leads a very different lifestyle. The opulent weddings of this segment of society are so grand that they might make you question whether you are still in the same country. In India, the love for splendor is palpable, especially in weddings, which are celebrated with a level of ostentation that might surpass any other place in the world. The descendants of the highest castes indulge in organizing their nuptials in opulent settings, adorned with bridal attire of astronomical prices. They constitute a distant elite, whose existence is almost like a separate world, inaccessible to the average citizen and elevated to extremes of luxury that few can even dream of reaching. If you liked the video, subscribe to the channel, leave your like and your comment. See you in the next video.